Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 1. Brahmo Vacha Vacham Vane Mukham Chetram Chandasam Saptadatava Havya Kavya Mrithananam Jiva Sarva Rasasya Cha Brahmo Vacha Vacham Vane Mukham Chetram Chandasam Saptadatava Havya Kavyamritananam Jiva Sarva Rasasya Cha Brahmo Vacha Vacham Vane Mukham Chetram Vacham Vane Mukham Chetram Chandasam Saptadatava Havya Kavyamritananam Jiva Sarva Rasasya Cha. Brahma Uvacha. Lord Brahma said, Vacham, of the voice, Vane, of fire, Mukham, the mouth, Chetram, the generating center, Chandasam, of the Vedic hymns, such as Gayatri, Sapta, 7, Dhatava, skin and 6 other layers, Havya Kavya, offerings for the demigods and the forefathers, Amrita, food for human beings, Ananam, of all sorts of foodstuffs, Jiva, the tongue, Sarva, all, Rasasya, of all delicacies, Cha, also. Translation. Lord Brahma said, the mouth of the Virat Purusha, the universal form of the Lord, is the generating center of the voice, and the controlling deity is fire. His skin and 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns, and his tongue is the productive center of different foodstuffs and delicacies for offering to demigods, the forefathers, and the general mass of people. Purport. The opulences of the universal form of the Lord is described herein. It is said that his mouth is the generating center of all kinds of voices, and its controlling deity is the fire demigod, and his skin and other 6 layers of bodily construction are the representative generating centers of the 7 kinds of Vedic hymns, like the Gayatri. Gayatri is the beginning of all Vedic mantras, and it is explained in the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the generating centers are the different parts of the universal form of the Lord, and since the form of the Lord is transcendental to the material creation, it is to be understood that the voice, the tongue, the skin, etc. suggest that the Lord in his transcendental form is not without them. The material voice, or the energy of taking in foodstuff, is generated originally from the Lord. Such actions are but perverted reflections of the original reservoirs. The transcendental situation is not without spiritual variegatedness. In the spiritual world, all the perverted forms of material variegatedness are fully represented in their original spiritual identity. The only difference is that material activities are contaminated by the three modes of material nature, whereas the potencies in the spiritual world are all pure because they are engaged in the unalloyed transcendental service of the Lord. In the spiritual world, the Lord is the sublime enjoyer of everything, and the living entities there are all engaged in his transcendental loving service without any contamination of the modes of material nature. The activities of the spiritual world are without any of the inebrities of the material world, but there is no question of impersonal voidness on the spiritual platform as suggested by the impersonalists. Devotional service is defined in the Narada Pancharatra as follows: Savo Pariviri Muktam Tat Paratmena Nirmanam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. Originally, since all the senses are produced of the Lord's reservoir of all senses, the essential activities of the material world are to be purified by the process of devotional service, and thus the perfection of life can be attained simply by purifying the present position of our material activities. And the purifying process begins from the stage of being liberated from the conception of different designations. Every living entity is engaged in some sort of service, either for the self or for the family or for the society, country, etc., but unfortunately all such services are rendered due to a material attachment. The attachments of the material affinity may be simply changed to the service of the Lord, and thus the treatment of being freed from material attachments begins automatically. The process of liberation is therefore easier through devotional service than by any other methods. For in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 it is said that one is subjected to various kinds of tribulations if one is impersonally attached. Klesha dikātarastesham avyakta shakta chetasam. 12.5. So, Brahma Vacha, Lord Brahma is speaking Purusha Shukta confirmed. We moved from the previous chapter. There was one final verse from the previous chapter. Others may divide the whole planetary systems into three divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs up to the earth, middle planetary systems on the navel, the upper planetary systems, Spargaloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. The three divisions of the complete planetary systems are here mentioned, 14 are mentioned by others, and that is also explained. So that ended the previous chapter, which was finalizing the description of the different planetary systems. Some, of course, 14, and some just categorize them in the three upper, middle, and lower. And now we're starting this next chapter, Purusha Shukta. Purusha Shukta. Purusha Shukta prayers. Purusha Shukta is very, Purusha Shukta. Shukta means, a compilation of beautiful poems and mantras glorifying the Purusha. That and the original Purusha, that is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purusha means person. So Purusha Shukta. So here, Purusha Shukta confirmed. Lord Brahma is beginning to speak here about Purusha, confirming. And there is a Purusha Shukta prayer, a mantra mentioned in the Rig Veda and other shastras. There's a lot of prayers, and sometimes there are many, and sometimes there are 18, and sometimes another 6. Generally, the most common form of Purusha Shukta is the 25 prayers or mantras, 24, 18 and 6. 24. And it starts like this. It starts with an invocation, Om Tachchum Yaravini Mahe Gatun Yagya Pataye Daivi Rashtu Nahap Svashti Manushibiyaha Urvam Jigatu Vishajam Stam No Astu Dvipade Stam Chatuspade. As an invocation, Purusha Shukta, and Om Shanti, Shanti Shanti, Hari Om. And we worship and pray to the Supreme Lord for the welfare of all beings, May all miseries and shortcomings leave us forever, so that we may always sing for the Lord during the holy fire ceremonies. May all medicinal herbs grow in potency, so that all diseases may be cured. May the gods rain peace on us. May all the two-legged creatures be happy. May all the four-legged creatures also be happy. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings in all realms. Invocation to Purusha Sukta. Very wonderful. There's many invocations like that. Peace to the world. Om Svashti Astu is very common in Bali. Om Svashti Astu. May there be peace and good fortune. Every function, every religious function, they start like that. Om Svashti Astu. Sometimes I get up. Also, Prahlad Maharaj is very famous for starting one prayer, Om Swastiastu, then he goes on glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the function, sometimes we in Bali we invite the governor and the big dignitaries, and they do the Om Swastiastu. So then I come and speak, and I Om Swastiastu. May there be peace and prosperity. Of course, that Prahlad Maharaj, he adds that can only be there when one actually comes to the position of worshipping the Supreme Personality. He starts off with Om Swastiastu, then he goes through some other prayers as well. So here we see the Om Shanti Shanti. And then, Om Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha. And then we start with the Purusha Sukta. And it is very famous in the yagyas, Vaishnava yagyas especially. We find in the school they use the Purusha Sukta, when they're doing the yagyas and things like that. But he has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet. He has enveloped the world from all sides, and he has transcended it by 10 angulus or inches, and he is everywhere. So the Purusha Sukta goes like that. So many prayers like that. So the Purusha Sukta confirmed here Brahma Vacha by Lord Brahma. And everything points back. Previously, we had the Virat Rupa, the imaginary form of the Lord represented in this world by different planetary systems and rivers and trees and so on and so forth. But very wonderfully, everything is likened to the form of the Lord. Purusha Sukta, and Lord Brahma is presenting it like that. It comes back. Even the Virat Purusha is the generating center of the voice, the controlling deity is fire, the skin, the 6 other layers are the generating centers of the Vedic hymns. Here Prabhupada mentions about the Gayatri. The Gayatri is very, very important mantra, Gayatri mantra. And the different Gayatri is, he also mentions here that the Gayatri, the 7 kind of Vedic hymns like the Gayatri. Now I'm concluding here that there are different types of Vedic hymns known by, there's 7, they're known by different meters. And we have Gayatri, Brihati, Parikriti, Ushnik, Jagatri. These are the 7. And they're recited in certain meters. So these are considered 7 different types of Vedic mantras. And the Gayatri is one. The Gayatri. Gayatri means to sing, to chant. So Gayatri is very, very important, and those who are practicing the Krishna consciousness, of course, on the second initiation, we would get the Gayatri. And indeed, the first one to get the Gayatri in this world was Lord Brahma. Now, there's a description how he received the initiation. It varies a little bit slightly according to the different day of Brahma, when he comes onto the top of the lotus. But in this day of Brahma, it's fairly standard description given by the acharyas, how there is the devastation, and then everything is submerged, and then from the Garbhodakshay Vishnu, the lotus, and then Lord Brahma, he doesn't know, everything is dark, he goes down, he hears the tapa, he comes back, and he does meditation for 1,000 celestial years, just on the tapa. And it is said that Jiva Goswami and others explain that at that time the Lord appears to him and gives him the Chatu Shloki, the the 4 seed verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, after that tapa. And so he receives that. And shortly after that, it's a Divya Saraswati. Saraswati, who is the wife of Brahma. But before that, she is the consort of Vishnu. There's a whole story of the 3 consorts of Lord Vishnu are Saraswati, Ganga, and Lakshmi in the transcendental. And Saraswati is actually expansion. That Saraswati is an expansion of Radharani. And there's a whole story. There's one Leela where there was a little bit of an altercation between the wives, where Ganga was looking at Lord Vishnu in an amorous way, and Saraswati got a bit upset. So there was a few words said. There were some curses, and they became rivers and so on. I won't go into the full story of the Leela, but it was all Lord Vishnu went away when they were arguing. Lord Vishnu went away, and he left it to them. And then there was some cursing going on, and Lakshmi didn't get so involved, but she was sticking up for Ganga. And then Saraswati cursed her because he was sticking up for Ganga, and so they all got cursed. And then Lord Vishnu came back. This is actually all my plan, and you are to take birth in the world, and then the sins will be purified by going in your waters and so on and so forth. So this was all explained. And then not only that, but your amsas, your expansions will go, and Saraswati will go to be the wife of Lord Brahma, the expansions of the original Saraswati. So going back to the initiation of Brahma, first of all, he received the Chatu Shloki. Just after that, Divya Saraswati, she gave him the Gopal mantra. You know, when we receive a Gayatri, we receive the 7 mantras. Of course, the sannyasis have an extra, we have 8, but there are 7 mantras, and we receive the Brahma. Now, the Brahma Gayatri, I'll explain a little bit about this. The Brahma Gayatri is given. First of all, there's Brahma Gayatri, there's Guru Mantra, and then Guru Gayatri. Of course, there are many different types of Gayatris chanted by different groups, and they have their own particular Gayatri. Generally, Gayatri will include the Vidmahe, the Dimahi, and what's the other one? The Pushpanaya. Those 3 which apparently coordinate, and they're Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. That's what they more or less represent. So when something is a Gayatri mantra, it will have those particular words. Vidmahe, Dimahe, and what was the last one again? Prachodaya. So those 3 will be there. So then there's the Guru mantra, the Guru Gayatri, as we chant, and then the Vaishnavacharyas have added this. The Guru, one needs the mercy of the Guru, first mantra, then the Gayatri, then the Gora mantra. Om Guruve Namaha is the mantra, and then we chant the actual Gayatri, and then Om Goraya Namaha is the Gora mantra, then the Gora Gayatri, and then the Gopal mantra. Gopi Jana Balabhaya Swa. And so this was what was given to Lord Brahma just after Krishna appeared to him and gave him the Chatu Shloki. Then Saraswati gave him the Gopal mantra. And so he chanted this mantra. She disappeared. And just chant this mantra, all your perfection will be achieved. And so he chanted. It is said that for another 1,000 celestial, he was meditating on this, on the Gopal mantra given to him. And in his meditation, he was meditating on the form of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, Gopal in the form of Gopal, Radharani, and he was meditating, serving them in so many different ways. So The Lord at that, this is also mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, the Lord at that time, after that period, the Lord was very pleased with Lord Brahma and manifest to him a vision, an actual vision from where he was seated on top of the lotus. He had a vision of the Vaikuntha in the spiritual world. He had that vision, even from where he was. So he saw the whole of the Vaikuntha, the Krishna, everything was there, and then the Brahma Samhita he composed after that. Now, shortly after that, Krishna played his flute, and with the flute, simultaneously the Om came there, and he was simultaneously given the Brahma Gayatri and the Kama Gayatri. The Kama Gayatri is very important. That the love of the gopis for the Supreme Personality, so that he was given simultaneously those mantras. So then at that point he was initiated fully. Now the Brahma Gayatri, later on others say that was compiled by Vishwamitra, but actually the original Brahma Gayatri was given by Krishna through his flute to Brahma, simultaneously with the Kama Gayatri. And so, now this Brahma Gayatri, now formerly when the second initiation, where formerly the Acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya would use the Pantratriki system, they would give Hare Krishna mantra initiation, first initiation, and they wouldn't give Brahma Gayatri, they would give the other mantras. Gopal mantra, all the other mantra, Guru mantra, Gora mantra, Gopal mantra, Kama Gayatri. They would give them. They wouldn't give the Brahma Gayatri because that was considered in the realm of the Vedic Brahmanas. And so others who weren't born in the Brahmin family couldn't chant that. So they didn't give it. But up to the time, and so all the Acharyas but Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he changed it. And interestingly enough, the original Brahma Gayatri that was given to Brahma, the original servitor, the enjoy and the control of the three worlds is Vishnu. Later on, the prayer is, when it's translated as we worship the sun god. Later on, that came later. But of course everyone accepts that. Understand? So this is very important for us Vaishnavas to understand. Now, very interestingly enough, the Shastric Advisory Committee presented a paper on this a little while ago, and they also go on to say that, of course, the original one, because the original servitor is Vishnu, and in this age it is Gora. So for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Brahma Gayatri, the servitor is Lord Gauranga. Lord Gauranga. So Bhaktisiddhanta, understanding all this, and not only that, understanding the mentality of the caste Brahmanas, no, unless you're born in the Brahmana family, you cannot chant that mantra, only the Brahmanas. But he understood that. He wanted to show that the Vaishnavas, someone could be a Vaishnava and also chant this mantra, and he introduced that mantra back again. This is where the Brahmana thread. And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave the Brahmana thread also. He had he initiated with the second initiation and reintroduced the Brahma Gayatri and Upavita thread as well. And then to qualify the Vaishnavas, then he introduced this Pancha Samskara, where at the time of the initiation there's Tapa, there's Nama, there's Upavita, there's the different aspects, the Pancha Samskara, where you get the name, you wear the tilak, and so many aspects of purifying. So when one undergoes the yagya, all these things are performed at the time of second initiation also. And so therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced that, and this was of course followed by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So this Gayatri mantra, as mentioned here, is the essence of the Vedic knowledge. Everything is contained therein. It is the topmost perfection of the Gopal mantra, especially the Kama Gayatri, but also now in the Brahma Gayatri mentioned as a prayer in brief. of course, some will say the sun god, and that's all right. He's the representative of the Supreme Personality. There is Surya, and there is Surya Narayan. Actually, it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam and other Shastras that also within the sun globe, there's not only Vivishwan, there's Narayan. He is there. And actually the energy, the light, is coming from Narayan, actually, who's in the sun. So all these things, Gayatri is very, very important. Prabhupada says is the essence of all the Vedic hymns. So when one gets initiated, in our line, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we get the Gayatri and in this way. And why we chant the Brahma Gayatri, where formerly the Acharyas never had their disciples chant the Brahma. They gave Hare Krishna mantra and the other mantras of the Gayatri, but not the Brahma Gayatri. It was Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, and Srila Prabhupada continued to follow that. And so when we chant, we can also recognize the sun god who is the source of, but beyond the sun god, there is Lord Narayan. And in this age, it is Lord Gauranga. So this is the mentality of the Gaura Sampradaya, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we have here in this verse a mention of a Purusha Shukta, Lord Brahma talking, and Gayatri mantra, and then later on, Prabhupada expands a little on them with quoting the Savu Parividi Muktam Tat Paratvena Nilmanam Rishiketa Sevanam Bhakti Uchate, that this as I said in the beginning, that the Virat Rupa, the imaginary form with all the elements in the universe relating, it all points back to a form. A form of the Lord, and the Lord has a form. There's no meaning to void. Some propagate void. There's no void. Even in Brahman, there's no void. The Brahman is filled with living entities. Those who desire that type of mukti, they are there, living, existing there, and they are existing on the Brahman effulgence. The effulgence coming from the Supreme Person. That is his effulgence. And in the effulgence, they're all the living entities. So actually there's no void. Those who speak of void have a miscomprehension of the whole thing. There's no void. And then Prabhupada makes a point of this. And so this misidentification. So one can have a misidentification materially speaking. We think we're so many things in this world, or even on the mukti level. If one thinks there's void, I'm going to the void. That's also a misidentification. So all that can be purified by engaging our mind and senses and everything in the service. This is the meaning of Savu Parivini. The upadis, the designations of this world, whether it's material attachments or trying to get mukti, are binding us up. So, but the beauty of devotional service, that Rishikesh, who possesses all these senses, the Purusha, and this Purusha Shukta, the eyes, and Prabhupada says just to imagine this form indicates that there is a reality of form that exists ultimately in the Supreme Personality. The Christians would say that we are made in God's image, and that's actually true. There is the Supreme Person Krishna. He has all the senses, and the spiritual world is full of variety. And all the variety and personality and forms we see are here because of that. Because of Krishna, because of the all the living entities there, and because of the variety. Now there's an old saying that variety is the spice of life. And we like variety. I mean, but unfortunately, it's in the world, variety is afflicted, because even you move from one thing to the other, it's ultimately not satisfying. And certainly, just focusing on one thing, when people are going to get bored. They just do one thing. Therefore, people have to have variety. It's just natural to have variety because the spiritual world is full of variety. Now, when we become attached to variety in this world, when we say it's the spice of life, unfortunately, it's a spice that turns bad or is deadly. The spice turns deadly. We indulge in so many different varieties. We want to seize the curiosity. We have our curiosities. We want to see so many varieties. But there's another old saying. about curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. Cats are supposed to be very curious. They were very, but then all of a sudden they go out. I saw one time, a long time ago when we were first here, we were down the bottom in the house there, and there was a cat looking out the window. Well, the cat was just looking. What's the cat looking at, I thought. And then I went out, the cat was looking, and there was a snake out there. I saw there was a snake, and the snake was going like this. It was mesmerising the cat, right? So the cat was just looking at it, and I could tell that the next moment that snake was just going to latch onto that cat, twirl it up, and kill it. It was one of those, what do you call it, pythons, yeah? So, I just got a stick and got that snake away. But, the cats have to see what's going on. But curiosity killed the cat. So, actually, one of the things that, there's one regulation that says, especially for brahmacharis, don't be too curious. I remember, giving a few brahmachari classes, and one of the regulations, don't be too curious. Why? Get you in trouble. Especially we're in ignorance in the world, we don't know what's going on. So you want to find out what's going on, and boom. And you see this in the species of life. They're going along, they smell something, they go in there, and there's a spider waiting in there or something like that. It just gets eaten. Right? So many spiders have their traps like. So we're curious, we want to see things. So the variety is there, but it is so many, and here Prabhupada uses the word inebriety. Inebriety means, you get intoxicated, and when someone is inebriated, means generally it's used that they're intoxicated, they're drunk. And when you're drunk, you're not in your normal. When you're drunk, you kind of think you know things, but it's not the reality. Right? Not the reality. So, living in the world, engaging in so many activities, you're in an inebriated state. There's one verse. Bhukti mukti, bhukti mukti pisachi, pisachi, riti vartate. Pisachi means witch. Means a witch. There's another. Dinka dakini rakta bagini pulak pulak ruhucha se. There's many verses about witches. So we are afflicted by witches. And what are those witches? One is a material attachment, and the other is mukti. These are witches. Now witches go with people everywhere. They're bhutas, witches. I remember many years ago when there was one devotee, a devotee lady in Adelaide. She was from Fiji, and she complained that she was in so much stress that when she was in Fiji, she was always attacked by this witch, this bhuta. And now she'd come to Australia. She was in Sydney, and the witch followed her there. And it followed her to Adelaide. She was having nightmares at night with this witch. And she was living in a room downstairs. And I said, that's interesting. And I said, why don't you sleep somewhere else? And I went down to that room and slept down there. And sure enough, I experienced that. I was talking to her. I said, oh, it's you, is it? You're following this girl everywhere? Go away, leave her alone. Chant Hare Krishna. So I'm not sure what happened in the end, but that's the instruction I gave. So the pisachi. So wherever you go, it's going to follow you. So when these things are in the heart, these material attachments and desire for mukti, wherever you can go anywhere, it's going to follow you. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he explains that as long as these things are in the heart, you can be following all the rules and regulations of bhakti, you can be following everything, but you're not going to experience prema. Because they're stifling, they're restricting your actual advancement to the level of Krishna Prema. There's no question Krishna Prema while you're maintaining material attachments or desires for mukti in the world. So they follow you like a witch. Mukti. Spriya yad pisachi riti vartate. This is the verse. So here, how to be freed from that? Savo parividi muktam tat paratvel, Semana bhakti uchade, by rendering service to the Rishika, the possessor of everything. All the senses, all our senses become purified by just engaging in his service. There are two effects. The senses become, now even the material senses become purified to a certain degree. Even the material senses, our eyes, ears, become, at least come up to the mode of goodness. But the real purification goes on the spiritual platform. Our spiritual senses, mind, intellect, all become purified just by engaging in his service. And automatically by engaging in his service, you're going to be freed from identifying yourself as something in the world. You're this or you're that. This binds us up. So the beauty of Krishna consciousness, we're free from this voidism, our senses are purified, we get out of the inebriated state. So therefore Prabhupada is very much emphasizing on this point. The attachment to the material affinity may be simply changed by service to the Lord, and thus the treatment of being freed from material attachment begins automatically. Process of liberation is therefore easier through devotional service. If we try for it with impersonal, and proper quotes from Bhagavad Gita, Klesha Dikatalash, Tesham Avyakta Shakta Chit, Samvyakti Tikidukam Devadbhya Vapyate. This is from the 12th chapter. Those who are attached to the impersonal, advancement is difficult for them. But the easy thing of Krishna consciousness, just follow, engage the senses, become purified. All these things happen. You understand the Purusha. So Brahma is presenting it in a way, and when one comes to the higher level, then we can totally liberate it. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We might have time for one or two questions. Any question at all? Yes, sir. Anyone got a question? Oh.
You just started talking about the Vedic initiation and the Panchavarta. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? That one includes the Brahma Gayatri and one doesn't include the Brahma Gayatri, or it's different levels?
One initiation includes the Brahma. You mean for us, or?
Yeah, previously it wasn't given.
No.
It was the Vedic style, and the Panchavarta is something different.
Yeah. So it's a combination of, well, actually, some say it's a combination. Our Gayatri, for example, is a combination of the Vedic Brahma Gayatri and then the Panchatriki, the other Gayatris. The latest actually, even that's not totally correct, because Jiva Goswami and other acharyas explain, as I explained, the original Brahma Gayatri is a glorification of the original Savitur, who is Lord Vishnu. So really, in one sense, you could say it's Vedic, but not caste Vedic, like only the Brahmanas. Actually, it is a worship of Vishnu rather than Savitur. So, before that, the previous acharyas didn't include it because they wanted to give everyone a chance at being initiated, and then the second initiated, especially the Gopal mantra and the Karma Gayatri, all these things were there and open to all. But if they included the Brahma Gayatri, they would be criticised. How can you give the second initiation like that and give the Brahma Gayatri? They are not from the Brahmana family. You cannot do it. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was more forthright. He was more strong on the point, and he wanted to show very forthrightly and courageously. And he got very criticised for that. Many they were against him. Smarta Brahmins were against him. And some of them planned to kill him over that. But he was very strong, and he wanted to show that actually the Vaishnava is a Brahmana and also a Vaishnava. So therefore he introduced it again in the true understanding of it. And he introduced the thread also. That was very radical. The Upavita, the thread. Very, very radical.
So does it mean that those things, the Vedic and the thread, they're another level, or it's just that these smarters have claimed it and
Yeah.
they're born in order?
They've claimed it.
It's
Yeah.
not more, doesn't require more purification or more expertise to be at the Vedic level. It's old-fashioned. It's just a.
Oh, well, I mean, the main reason is that people are not qualified to chant because they're in an impure state. So one needs to qualify themselves, and by birth, they're presenting by our birth and our training. There's some truth to it, what they say. So by their birth, and naturally they're going to get their training, and therefore they're qualified enough to be able to chant these and perform the functions of that is expected of the brahmanas like that. So therefore they claimed it like that. Others shouldn't get it, but no, the Vaishnavacharyas, especially from the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, said no, everyone is qualified. And just to show you that actually this Brahma Gayatri the Vaishnavas are qualified for the Brahma Gayatri, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta reintroduced it. Yes.
A few Protestants ago, Srila Prabhupada was talking about initiation, and he presented that we give people first initiation, and then we observe them for some time, and then they receive second initiation, and then they become disciple. And then in the comments, there was sort of lengthy comments on this point with the significance of either initiation. It was said that in the first initiation of the Hare Krishna mantra, that you can attain Krishna praying from this initiation, and Gayatri initiation only brings you to liberation. And so I was wondering if you could comment on that, if there's any.
Well, Brahma Gayatri, just with understanding the position of the sun god, that generally previously would give the mukti. But with understanding the Brahma Gayatri to be Vishnu, and especially with, combining with especially the Kama Gayatri, that takes one to the higher level of Krishna Prem. Now, the effect of any mantra will only be there with the attitude of the person who chants it is very, very important. So if one is just chanting it very mechanically, it doesn't matter who they are, then they won't really come to the higher levels of it. But the Brahma Gayatri formally would give mukti, and was the understanding, and because many of the smarter Brahmanas were impersonalists, and so they promoted it in that way, that one can get the mukti. But actually, when you understand fully that originally the Brahma Gayatri was given in the flute melody, the flute melody of Krishna, along with Kama Gayatri, by Krishna to Brahma. He got both simultaneously, Brahma Gayatri and Kama Gayatri. And so that Brahma Gayatri, that's another thing. But the commonly understood Brahma Gayatri, many say it was compiled by Vishvamitra, others say someone else. There's all different opinions on it. And that means the sun god, and one chants that very nicely, then one can attain mukti. That's a very common understanding. But the Vaishnavas, we understand differently.
So when we chant our first line Gayatri, meditation should be on Garanga method.
Sorry?
When we chant the first line Gayatri, meditation should be on Garanga method.
That's the recommendation, actually, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, that we meditate upon the Lord Vishnu. We understand that the sun god is a representative of the Lord Narayan, and Lord Narayan in this age has come as Gora. Okay. So we think of Gora. This was just presented by the Shastric Advisory Committee after a long research on the matter of all our big scholars, and they presented a big paper to the GBC on that.
I guess he's golden also.
Huh?
He's golden like the sun also.
The golden. Jai, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gopramanandi Hari Hari Bol.